John's expression froze on his face, like a poorly painted canvas frozen in time. His first love, Lily, standing before him, also forgot to cry, her almond-shaped eyes wide with disbelief. "Wendy? What are you doing?" John's voice was hoarse. I stretched my wrists, which were numb from being tied up, walked over to the tall kidnapper, and casually took a bottle of water from his hand. I unscrewed it, took a sip. "Don't understand?" I said casually. "I'm doing business with you." The kidnapper promptly removed his hood, revealing a familiar face, my personal bodyguard, Tom. Tom grinned at John, showing 2 rows of white teeth, then respectfully stepped back behind me. The drama in this abandoned warehouse had changed its protagonist. John's face turned from white to green, then from green to ashen. "You designed this?" He stared at me intently, his eyes venomous. "You're insane." "Am I crazy?" I thought I'd heard the funniest joke in the world. "John, compared to what you've done, this is just an appetizer." Lily screamed, "Wendy! How could you be so cruel?" John was trying to save me. One glance from me, and she fell silent instantly. Over the years, John has protected me so well that everyone thinks I'm a sheltered, unassuming parasitic flower. They've forgotten who I was before I married him. "Shut up," I said coldly. "You have no right to speak here." I pulled up a chair, sat down in front of them, and crossed my legs. "John, we've been married for 5 years. Your company has grown from a small studio to a multi-billion-dollar company. You know better than I how much effort I put into it. What are you trying to say?" He looked at me warily. I wanted to say that I was partly responsible for all of this. I paused, took a voice recorder out of my pocket, and gently pressed play. John's gentle voice came through, and on the other end of the conversation was Lily. "Lily, wait a little longer. Once I transfer the assets under Wendy's name, we'll get a divorce, and the company will be both ours." "John, will she find out?" "I'm so scared." "Don't worry, she's so love-struck, she doesn't know anything but loving me, she's really stupid." The recording was short, but every word was piercing. A deathly silence filled the warehouse. John's face was beyond ugly. I turned off the recorder and smiled at him. "Now, we can talk about your ransom. How much money do you want?" He practically spat out the words. "Money?" I shook my finger. "No, I don't want money. I want 50% of the shares in Xingyuan Group that you hold. A free transfer." "You're dreaming," John roared, his eyes bloodshot. Xingyuan Group was everything to him, the throne he had climbed to by abandoning his dignity and stepping on the shoulders of countless others. Letting me take half of it would be like taking half his life. "I'm not consulting you." I stood up, looking down at him. "I'm informing you." I took a document from Tom and threw it in front of him. "A share transfer agreement. Sign it, and you too can leave unscathed." "What if I don't sign?" I laughed. "John, do you really think this is just a simple kidnapping show?" I walked to a corner of the warehouse and lifted a canvas. Lying below was a man, tightly bound, with a cloth gagged. It was Jim, John's financial director. I gestured for Tom to remove the cloth from Jim's mouth. As soon as Jim was free, he cried out, "John! Help me! Wendy, she knows everything!" John's pupils constricted sharply. "Wendy, what are you trying to do?" I didn't want to do anything. I strolled back slowly. Just a few days ago, I accidentally discovered some problems with the company's accounts. Jim told me that over the past few years, I had transferred nearly $1 billion of company assets through dozens of private accounts. What do you think would happen if I handed over this evidence, along with the materials about your tax evasion, to the Economic Crime Investigation Department? John shuddered, and cold sweat instantly soaked through his shirt. He thought he had done everything perfectly, but little did he know, I had already planted my own people among his trusted confidants. "When, from the first time you spent the night with Lily in the hotel?" Looking at his shocked face, I felt an immense sense of satisfaction. 3 years ago, when he came home smelling of an unfamiliar perfume and gently said to me, "My wife, you've worked so hard," I knew something was tainted. I didn't cry, nor did I make a scene. I simply began, without a word, to take back everything I had once woven for him with my own hands. I took over his network of connections one by one. I eliminated his confidants one by one. I knew his assets inside and out. Like the most patient hunter, I waited patiently for him to step into the trap I had set. Today is the day to reap the rewards. John, it's your choice. I placed the pen in front of him. Sign this agreement and become a rich man, or go in and join your gym, spending the rest of your life in jail? Lily sobbed, "John, don't listen to her. She's crazy. She wants to ruin you." John shoved her away. "Shut up." It was the first time he had ever shown such disgust towards his first love. Perhaps he finally understood the price he would have to pay for this woman. His hand trembled as he picked up the pen. The nib scratched across the paper, making a hissing sound. Each stroke felt like cutting into John's flesh. After signing the last word, he collapsed to the ground, as if all his bones had been removed. I took the agreement, carefully checked it, and, after confirming it was correct, handed it to the lawyer behind me with satisfaction. Yes, I brought a lawyer with me. When doing things, you have to go all the way. All right. I clapped my hands. You can go now. Tom stepped forward and untied the ropes binding John and Lily. John didn't move, he just looked up at me with an expression I'd never seen before. There was hatred, resentment, and a hint of bewilderment in his voice. It was as if he had never known me. "Wendy, why?" he asked hoarsely. "Did things have to come to this between us?" "It was your choice, John." I looked at him, my heart calm and undisturbed. "When you decided to betray me and scheme for my assets, you should have expected this day to come. But we were husband and wife after all." "Husband and wife?" I interrupted him. "When you were willing to let me die without hesitation for Lily's sake, all that remained between us was the relationship between creditor and debtor." He was speechless. Lily crawled over and grabbed John's arm. "John, let's go, let's leave here. Even without the company, I'll stay with you," she cried, tears streaming down her face, trying to put on a melodramatic show of unwavering devotion. Unfortunately, John was no longer the fool blinded by love. He looked at Lily, his eyes cold. "If it weren't for you, how could I have ended up like this?" Lily was stunned. "John, what did you say?" I said, John, enunciating each word clearly, "It's all because of you." He shook off Lily's hand, staggered to his feet, and paced back and forth in the warehouse like a trapped wild animal. He looked at me, then at Lily, a maniacal smile spreading across his face. "Ha ha ha. Karma, it's all karma. Wendy, you won completely." He laughed until tears streamed down his face. I watched him go crazy silently, without a shred of pity. If only he had known this would happen. Now that the agreement is signed, I should leave. I don't want to watch this farce anymore, so I turned to leave. "Wait." John suddenly called out to me. He walked towards me step by step, his eyes carrying an eerie calm. "Wendy, you took everything from me, aren't you feeling smug?" I didn't speak, just watched him warily. He walked up to me, less than half a meter away. "I'm telling you, this isn't over yet." He suddenly laughed, a sinister laugh. "Do you think you're safe once you get the shares? Let me tell you a secret." His voice was low, like the hiss of a venomous snake. "Xingyuan Group is no longer an empty shell. I owe the bank 30 billion yuan and have signed 5 performance-based agreements that are due next month. You are now the company's largest shareholder, you're responsible for repaying these debts. Welcome to hell, my dear ex-wife. 3 billion in debt, 5 betting agreements." This figure exploded like a bombshell in the warehouse. Even the lawyer behind me gasped. John had finally revealed his hand, a hand coated with deadly poison. He hadn't lost, he was trying to drag me down with him. If these debts and agreements are true, then the Xingyuan group I took over is not a gold mine, but a huge, erupting volcano. No one can escape its clutches. He stared intently at me, as if trying to see panic, fear, or regret on my face. However, he was disappointed. I simply listened quietly, my face expressionless. I even gave a slight smile. "Oh, really?" My reaction clearly exceeded his expectations. John's expression froze. You're not afraid?" "Why should I be afraid?" I countered. I looked at him with a hint of pity in my eyes, as if I were looking at a clown. "John, do you think your plan to take everyone down with you is particularly brilliant?" He didn't answer, but the smugness in his eyes betrayed him. "Too bad," I sighed, "you miscalculated one thing." I raised my hand and glanced at my watch. "It's almost time." The words had barely left his mouth when the warehouse door was flung open. Blinding sunlight flooded in, and a group of uniformed men stood in the doorway. Leading them was a stern-faced middle-aged man. Seeing me, he immediately stepped forward and extended his hand. "Wendy, nice to meet you. I'm Danny, the captain of the city's Economic Crime Investigation Unit." I shook his hand. "Danny, thank you for your hard work." John and Lily were completely stunned. Danny turned to John and showed his badge. "John, we have received a report that you are suspected of using Xingyuan Group to conduct large-scale financial fraud, contract fraud, and illegal money laundering, involving as much as 30 billion yuan. Please come with us for investigation." "WH. What?" John's face turned ashen. "Fraud? Money laundering? I didn't." "Whether I did or not isn't up to you to decide." Danny waved his hand, and two officers immediately stepped forward and put cold handcuffs on John. John panicked completely. He struggled frantically and screamed at me, "Wendy! It was you! You reported me! You wicked woman!" I walked up to him, looking down at him. "I already said, I'm not discussing this with you. I'm not reporting you to get the company." I picked up the share transfer agreement he had just signed and slowly tore it in half right in front of him. "I have absolutely no interest in your garbage company." Paper scraps flew everywhere, like a belated funeral. John's pupils dilated to their maximum size at that moment. He finally understood. From the very beginning, it wasn't about money, nor about the company. What I wanted was to send him to hell with my own hands. The document he had just signed was not a share transfer agreement at all. It detailed every single one of his crimes. It was a confession, signed by him personally. The handcuffs clicked shut, and John's life came to an end. Like a dog with its spine ripped out, he was dragged away by the officers. As he passed me, he mustered all his strength to utter a few words, "You're so cruel." I smiled slightly. "Thank you for the compliment. Compared to you, enjoying everything I brought while plotting how to kick me out, I think I'm quite kind." He was taken away, along with the trembling CFO, Jim. Lily slumped to the ground, her face deathly pale. She probably hadn't yet recovered from this huge turn of events. The police didn't give her any trouble. After all, legally speaking, she was just a deceived third party. But from now on, without John as her sugar daddy, her good days are over. Danny came over and thanked me. "Wendy, thanks to the detailed evidence you provided, we've been following this lead for a long time without any breakthroughs." "Of course," I said, "I was just trying to protect myself." After a few pleasantries, the economic crime investigation team left. Only my man and I remained in the warehouse. The lawyer approached and handed me a document. "Wendy, as you instructed, the bankruptcy liquidation proceedings for Xingyuan Group have commenced. This is the preliminary asset appraisal report." I took it and flipped through it casually. As John said, the company was already insolvent and a huge mess. Tom was puzzled. "Wendy, you went through all that trouble just to get him in there, and then, take over this mess?" I closed the file and looked at the bright sunlight outside the warehouse. "Who said I was going to take over?" I handed the documents back to the lawyer. The notice was then issued that all investors and suppliers who had been cheated by John could participate in the asset liquidation process according to this list, in order to recover their losses as much as possible. As for the company's employees, I paused for a moment, then said, N+1 compensation, not a penny less. The lawyer and Tom were both stunned. They probably thought I would, like the protagonist of every revenge story, take over this business empire and reach the pinnacle of life. But that's not me. From beginning to end, what I wanted was not John's money. I just wanted to bring him down from his pedestal and make him pay the heaviest price for his greed and betrayal. As for this empire built on lies and sin, let it vanish with the wind. I don't want my future tainted by any stain related to him. What I want is a clean, fresh start. It was 2 weeks later when I finished dealing with company matters. I moved out of the villa where John and I lived when we got married and rented an apartment in the city center. The apartment wasn't big, but it was very sunny. I dismissed most of the bodyguards and assistants, keeping only Tom. Life suddenly became simple and peaceful. That afternoon, I was reading on the balcony when the doorbell rang. Tom went to open the door, and standing there was my former mother-in-law, Annie, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. Her well-maintained face was now etched with weariness and resentment. As soon as she saw me, she stormed in. "Wendy! You bitch! Give me back my son!" Tom immediately stepped in front of her. I put down my book and gestured for Tom to move aside. "Let him in." Annie rushed in front of me, raising her hand to slap me. I easily grabbed her wrist. Her wrist was thin, but she was surprisingly strong. "Madam," I looked at her calmly. She had trespassed on private property and even tried to assault someone. I could call the police immediately. She probably didn't expect me to be so forceful. She paused for a moment, then started throwing a tantrum. "Call the police. Let everyone see how you, this heartless woman, sent your husband to jail." She plopped down on the ground and began to wail. "What sins have I committed? To marry such a jinx? You've ruined my son's life." Her cries were shrill and piercing, hurting anyone's eardrums. In the past, I might have considered her feelings and offered a few words of comfort. But now, I just watched her perform coldly. Only after she had cried enough, her voice hoarse, did I slowly speak. "Are you done crying?" Annie's sobs paused. "After you've finished crying, let's get down to business." I pulled a document from under the coffee table and tossed it in front of her. "This is a list of the assets John has transferred from the company to your name over the years, including 3 properties, 5 shops, and a $20 million trust fund." Annie's face changed. What do you want to do? This is all stolen money. According to regulations, it all needs to be recovered to pay off the company's debts." "Don't even think about it," she screamed. "This is what my son gave me as a gift. It has nothing to do with you. Whether it matters or not is up to the judge." I said calmly, "Of course, you can choose not to return it. However, as the recipient of illicit assets, you may also bear corresponding legal responsibility. To put it simply, it's the crime of harboring illicit funds." "Wendy, do you have to be so ruthless? John has already suffered so much because of you." "Suffering?" I laugh. "When he was spending investors' money to buy you luxury goods and mansions, why didn't you say he suffered then? When he used the money he swindled to support other women, why didn't you say he was pitiful?" "Annie, the reason you think he's pitiful is simply because you can no longer enjoy all of this with a clear conscience." I stood up, walked over to her, and looked down at her. "Stop with your victim act. You and your son are cut from the same cloth. Either spit it all out and live out your old age peacefully. Either go in and be with your most precious son. The choice is yours." Annie ultimately chose to compromise. She cried and cursed, handing over all the assets she could sell. Overnight, she went from a pampered socialite to an ordinary old woman struggling to make ends meet. I stopped following her story because new troubles had arisen in my life. "Lily. After John's downfall, she kept a low profile for a while. I thought she would disappear from the public eye, but unexpectedly, she transformed into a tragic heroine on the internet. She registered accounts on various social media platforms, with the name First Love destroyed by a wealthy and ruthless wife. Her daily work consisted of posting videos, lamenting her tragic experiences. In the videos, she wore elaborate, seemingly natural-looking makeup and faded old clothes, sitting in a cramped and shabby rented room, sobbing uncontrollably. I never intended to break up anyone's family. John and I truly loved each other. It was that woman, she was horrible. She used despicable means to take everything from John and even sent him to prison. I have nothing left now, I can't even afford the rent, and I have to eat instant noodles every day. Her acting was excellent, and the story was very convincing. Childhood sweethearts, forced separation, a wicked wife from a wealthy family breaking up the couple, all these things. Suddenly, she actually attracted quite a few fans who sympathized with her. Attacks against me started appearing online. Wendy is so cruel. If you don't love someone anymore, just let go. Why ruin their life? Exactly, it's wrong for a man to have an affair, but to treat someone so cruelly is going too far. That Lily is so pitiful, she seems like such a pure and kind girl. Public opinion started to escalate, and some bored reporters even came to my apartment building wanting to interview me. Tom was furious. Wendy, should I have someone ban her account? No need. I shook my head, letting her make a scene. But, a fly buzzing around is annoying, but swatting it would only dirty my hands. I have absolutely no interest in this kind of sob story to gain sympathy. The innocent will remain innocent, and the guilty will remain guilty. I believe that lies will always be exposed eventually. However, I underestimated Lily's shamelessness. A few days later, she released a bombshell video. In the video, she clutched her lower abdomen, her face bearing a sacred yet sorrowful expression. I'm pregnant. It's John's child. Even if the whole world abandons us, I will bravely give birth to this child. This is the fruit of our love, and his only bloodline. The video went viral instantly. The image of a great woman, unmarried, pregnant, and destitute, yet determined to give birth to her boyfriend's child in prison, was instantly established. Public opinion completely turned against her. The abuse directed at me reached its peak. Holy crap! She's pregnant, and Wendy's still trying to destroy her? This isn't just malicious, it's inhuman. Boycott Wendy. Get her out of our city. My phone was ringing off the hook, and my company email was flooded with curse emails. Tom looked at me worriedly. Wendy, what do we do now? I looked at Lily's pitiful face on my phone screen and finally smiled. It was time. I should give her a big gift. I didn't engage in any online mudslinging with Lily. That would be too beneath me. I simply had my lawyer send an email to some of the most popular media outlets online. The email contained only an audio clip and a photo. The audio recording is of John and Lily's conversation in the warehouse. In particular, when John yells at Lily, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this situation today," the deep-seated disgust and resentment are clearly discernible. But that photo was even more impactful. It was Lily's pregnancy test report. The report clearly stated, pregnancy duration, 12 weeks. I had someone create a simple timeline. 12 weeks ago, John spent a full month abroad on an overseas merger and acquisition deal. The time, location, flight information, and hotel check-in records were all meticulously documented. In other words, John had absolutely no opportunity to commit the crime. The night this grand gift was sent out, the entire internet fell silent. Fans who had previously cheered for Lily felt as if they'd been collectively slapped in the face. The air was still for about half an hour. Then came the overwhelming, tsunami-like backlash. Shocking revelation. The child isn't John's? John was abroad 12 weeks ago. This is a complete rip-off. I'm disgusted. What kind of master manipulator is Lily? Lying to John while pregnant with someone else's child? I feel sorry for John for a second. He was just sent to jail by his ex-wife, and now he's found out he's a father. So all that crying and wailing was just an act? Just to gain sympathy and clicks? Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I request the platform to permanently ban this kind of disgraced artist. Lily's carefully cultivated image as a tragic heroine shattered overnight. She quickly deleted all her videos and deactivated her account, attempting to feign death. But angry netizens had no intention of letting her off the hook. Soon, someone uncovered her real sugar daddy, a wealthy businessman much older than John, who was already married. It turned out she had been betting on both sides. John was merely one of the bigger fish in her catch pool. After the truth came out, no one sympathized with her anymore. Insults and ridicule overwhelmed her like a tidal wave. It said that the wealthy businessman's first wife was no pushover either, and she went directly to Lily's rented apartment with her entourage. I didn't care what happened next. He was just a clown, not worth my time. I just occasionally wondered what John's expression would be when he heard the news in prison. It must have been quite a sight. After resolving the little incident with Lily, my life returned to complete peace. Until one day, I received an unexpected phone call. It was John's lawyer. He said John was behaving well in prison and had been granted a visitation opportunity. He wanted to see me. I was somewhat surprised. I thought that the last person he wanted to see in his life was me. After hesitating for a moment, I agreed. Some things needed to be put to rest. The visiting room was separated by a thick pane of glass. We spoke by phone. I hadn't seen John for several months, and he looked much thinner and older. He was wearing a prison uniform, his hair was shaved very short, and his eyes no longer held their former vigor, only a stagnant stillness. When he saw me, he picked up the phone and remained silent for a long time. I didn't say anything, just looked at him quietly. Finally, he spoke first. I heard about Lily. His voice was hoarse. Yes. The child is really not mine? The pregnancy test results don't lie. He gave a self-deprecating laugh, a laugh filled with bitterness. I was so stupid, wasn't I? I gave up everything for that woman. I didn't agree with him. I said, "You're not doing this for her, you're doing it for your own greed. Lily is just an excuse and a catalyst for your greed." He was stunned, seemingly not expecting me to say that. He looked at me, for a long time, his gaze becoming complex. "Wendy," he asked, "did you ever love me?" This was probably the question he most wanted to ask today. And also the final mystery in our relationship. I didn't answer directly. I remember many years ago. Back then, we had just graduated from university and were penniless. We were crammed into a tiny rented room of just over 10 square meters, and we couldn't even afford to turn on the air conditioner. One summer night, the power went out. The room was stuffy and hot, and I couldn't sleep because of the heat. John moved a small stool, sat on the edge of the bed, and fanned me all night with a worn-out palm leaf fan. Sweat streamed down his forehead, soaking his t-shirt. The next morning, when I woke up, he was asleep by the bedside, still clutching the fan tightly in his hand. I, on the other hand, had slept soundly all night, without a single mosquito bite. My eyes were slightly warm. I picked up the phone and whispered to John on the other end, "I loved the boy who fanned me all night on a summer night when the power went out. Sadly, he died long ago in that stuffy rented room." After saying that, I hung up the phone. Without looking back, I walked straight out of the visiting room. I didn't look at John's expression through the glass wall. I didn't want to look anymore. Between us, it was over. Completely over. A year later, I used my savings, plus some marital property, to start a small investment company. It focused on supporting promising young entrepreneurs with dreams. It wasn't large, but it was doing very well. Tom remains my driver and bodyguard, but now he spends more time helping me with miscellaneous company matters. Life is busy, but fulfilling. I rarely think about John anymore. She occasionally heard news about him from lawyers. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison for defrauding a huge sum of money. Annie sold the last of her possessions and ran around appealing for him, but to no avail. As for Lily, her fate was even more tragic. The wealthy businessman's first wife was ruthless, not only ruining her reputation but also saddled her with a huge debt. To repay the debt, she was forced to abort her child and turn to places of ill repute. It is said that she lived a very difficult life there. The fates of these people are no longer my concern. They're like a puddle of mud I accidentally stepped into on my journey through life. They once disgusted me, but after washing my shoes and taking a different path, I forgot about them. That day, I had just finished a project meeting and stepped out of the office building. The sun was shining brightly, its warmth bathing me. The coffee shop on the corner had a new sign. The plane trees along the roadside had sprouted tender green buds. Everything was new. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I answered. "Hello?" A clear male voice came from the other end, tinged with uncertainty. "Excuse me, is this Wendy?" I was taken aback. "Yes, and who are you?" "I'm Gary. Don't you remember me? The junior on the debate team back in college." Gary. This name was like a key, unlocking long-sealed memories. I think I remember now. That boy who always wore a white shirt, so spirited on the debate stage, his eyes always shining when he looked at me. "It's you." I smiled. "It's been so long." "Yes, it's been a long time." He seemed relieved on the other end of the phone. "Senior, are you free now? I'd like to buy you a coffee." I looked up at the sky. The sky was a clear blue, without a single cloud. "Sure," I said.